In the previous video, we constructed a UML class diagram for the entities in our domain. In this video, I'm going to show you how to describe these classes in a spreadsheet and then generate an OWL model of the classes. The tool that produces the OWL model is called the Koenig Schema Generator. Let's visit the README file for this generator. I have a bookmark for the README page, so I'll just open it from that bookmark. You can follow the link in the description below. Now you'll notice that in the usage section it says you should start by making a copy of the data model workbook. So let's go out and visit that. Now ideally I'd like to just use this make a copy option, but I can't because I'm not signed in. So let me go ahead and sign in. Okay, so now I have the ability to make a copy. I'm going to rename this file. And I'm going to store it in a particular folder within my drive. Now we've got a sheet that's available for others to use. I can later add sharing options so that other folks can contribute to this and collaborate with me. You'll notice that there are several tabs at the bottom. In this video, we're really only going to be using the first two tabs. And in fact, I'm going to start with the Classes tab. This sheet's really easy to fill out. You start by typing the name of the class that you want to document. So let's start with User Story. Now that term should be suitable for display in a business glossary. So it's got spaces in it. It's just a natural language term. The second column is where you define the term. So we want to have a common definition so everybody understands what we mean by this particular term. I'm not going to make you watch me type it. I'm going to just cut and paste from a notepad that I've got nearby. So there you go. There's my definition of user story. The next column is the formal ID for this particular class, one that machines can understand. So this is the compact URI that we saw in the previous video. So in this case, I'm going to write PMD:user story with no space. So that's the machine readable URI. In a moment, we'll show you how to define what the namespace prefix PMD maps to. All right, and then I want to say that a user story is a subclass of an issue. So I know we're going to create in a moment the definition of the issue class, but I'll just go ahead and say right now that it's a subclass of issue. All right, now let's go ahead and do that. Create the definition here. So we've got issue, and then likewise I will cut and paste the definition from my notepad. There you go. And again, the class ID in this case is going to be PMD issue. All right, and we're going to go through and do this same exercise for all of the other classes in our model. Now that we've defined the classes, let's go ahead and define the ontology that contains these classes. We do that on the Ontologies tab. And this tab's very easy to fill out too. We just give a nice human understandable name for our ontology. We'll call it Project Management and Delivery Vocabulary. Then we need to give a description of this ontology. Next, we need to provide a URI for the namespace associated with this ontology. And then lastly, we just define a prefix. We now have all the information we need to generate an OWL ontology from this spreadsheet. What we need to do next is set up a project to run the Koenig Schema Generator. And that generator is implemented as a Maven plugin. So I need to create a Maven project that will use that plugin. I like to do that in Eclipse. You don't have to use Eclipse, but it's a convenient development environment, so I'll show you how I run it. First thing I need to do is create a new project to hold the data. So I'm just going to create a plain old project. We'll call it PMD. And I'll add a source folder to hold our spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and download that spreadsheet. And we'll just copy it into the source folder. And there it is. All right, next we need to add the Maven POM. If you're not familiar with Maven, there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube where you can learn the basics. And we're just going to copy the sample POM file that's in our README file. So let's go back to the README. And here's that sample. Just going to copy it. And let's paste it into our project. As you can see, there are quite a few configuration parameters. We don't need all of these. The configuration parameters are defined in that README file, and you can just pick and choose the ones that you want to use. For our purposes, we really are only interested at the moment in generating the OWL ontology, so most of these are going to go away. We do want to keep the workbook file, but we need to make sure that it's pointing to the right file as we've defined it in our project. So I'm going to change the name here a little bit. We don't need to infer property definitions, but we do want to keep the OWL out directory. I'm going to delete the rest of these configuration parameters for now. And then I'm going to change some of the project properties. I'll change the group ID to match my group. And I'll change the artifact ID to be something a little more specific. And the name. Okay, now we're ready to run the Maven build process. So we'll just come in here and choose Run As Maven Generate Sources. And we can see that the build was successful. We've now got this new folder, this target folder that has the generated sources, including this file that has the OWL ontology. You'll notice that matches the output directory that we defined in the configuration here. So we'll take a quick look at that, and there you have it. There's our OWL ontology generated from the spreadsheet. It's got all of the classes that we defined, comments, the human readable names, which are rendered as RDFS labels, and you'll notice up at the top we've got a description of the ontology itself. Alright, so now we've got an ontology that has a description of all the classes in it. In the next video, we'll enrich this ontology by adding object